So, are you curious?
Welcome to the Curiosity Codex. I am your ardent enthusiast, Kyle Olson. Did you miss me? I missed you. I'm shaking up the format a bit, but before we get into that, I wanted to talk about one of the fundamental forces in my life: curiosity. It's why the show is named what it is. I'm an insanely curious person, and it fuels my geekdom. When I see a show I like, I then want to know everything that actor has been in, everything that showrunner has written. I want to take it apart and see how it works. So when I find someone who does a job I don't understand, I instantly have 100 questions. Which is why being a part of the next reel is so much fun, as I get exposed to people I might never cross paths with in normal life. And you're about to meet one of those amazing people. Her name is Mandy Fabian, and she works in Hollywood. It's okay if you've never heard of her. What I've learned later in life is that the entertainment industry is like an iceberg. The stuff on top is all the studio fare, the stars, the chat shows, the gossip rags, but that's just a small piece. Below the waterline of what gets liked, subscribed, shared is where the majority of work is being done by hardworking, talented, creative people who are just as dedicated to telling their stories as those who get a check for $20 million by multimedia conglomerates. They just don't get the press. Mandy is one of those people. And when I met her, she was doing something I'd only heard about, read about, dreamed about. She was directing her first movie. And I had to know more. I asked her if she'd be willing to chat with me for a series of conversations about the process of making an independent film. How do you get funded? What's casting like? What's it like the first time you called action? We worked on a kind of syllabus that we agreed on, and then we started chatting. And the more she talked, the more questions I had. We soon diverged from our plan, but what emerged was a fascinating tale of a young girl from nowhere, Texas, with big dreams of stardom, pinballing around through the entertainment industry from Boston to New York to Tinseltown. I can't even tell you how it ends because we're still talking. So, over the next few weeks, I hope you'll indulge my curiosity about pursuing a dream, the plans you make and the curveballs life throws at you, and finally, discovering the thing you were meant to do. Here's the first part of my curiosity conversation with Mandy Fabian.
Chapter 1. The Big, Bright Stars in Her Eyes.
I guess the first question is, when did you sort of first get the performing bug? Like, when was the first time you were like, watching something and be like, oh, I want to be up there?
You know, that's a good question. I in second grade, I auditioned to play, I think probably a smaller part in the stage play Aladdin at my local elementary school. But then I auditioned for The Princess, and I beat out some fifth graders.
Oh.
For the lead role of, I think it was like Aladdin and the Princess was the title of the play, and I played the princess.
You got the title role.
I still remember my costume. I think my mom made it, but still, I remember it was yellow and had a sparkly veil, and that was my first kind of oh, geez, I'm really good at this. Now, to be fair, from a second grader's perspective, maybe I was a little cocky. I'm not going to lie. I didn't realize the years upon years of struggle and sweat and rejection and and hard work that it actually takes to achieve something in the entertainment industry. But that's where I got the bug. And I always used to make my mom laugh I would do impressions of the Muppets, and I could do accents really well. I would hear them on TV, and then I'd go to my mom and be like, I did the Swedish Chef, and it would just crack. It was the only thing. If I did it in the car, she'd have to pull over because she was laughing so hard. So that's kind of what gave me the bug. And also, I always talked to myself. It was my mom and dad, and then my sisters, and then me and the family pet. Huh. So we were all sort of teamed up. We had our people, and mine was always imaginary Barbies or the dog. So I had to do a lot of talking. And when I was taking care of said family pet, I would engage in these conversations. You know, I don't even know where they came from, but I was this blah, blah, blah. I'd be like, Harold, I can't be married to you anymore. Margaret, please don't. Penelope means nothing to me. You're mine forever. And I would just talk like this. I would do imaginary voices and scenes that were just garbage, but it was what came into my head, and I got caught a lot, and it was very embarrassing. But I had no idea what all that meant until I'm trying to think. And then when I got a little bit older and I was doing high school in theater, I don't know, I'm giving you a lot of the details, but you can cut out whatever's super boring.
Yeah.
So then I joined the drama club by accident in high school, actually.
How do you join a club by accident?
Well, I had signed up for something else, maybe photography or something, or yearbook. I don't know what it was. But there was no more space, and my counselor, I was new to the school, and my counselor was like, well, you need an elective course, and you need sixth period, and the only thing that's available is like this upper level drama course, but I'll see if you can get in. And so I got into a drama course in high school, and I fell madly in love. And it was weird because, like, I knew I either wanted to be like a pilot or Kelly McGillis after I saw Top Gun. I saw Top Gun and I was like, definitely want to fly planes, or I want to be a hot chick who talks about planes. Or maybe an actress. And then I got into the drama class and it all kind of, then I became an actress.
Oh, so that's what you consider yourself, like, first. You were like, actress, like, this is actor, this is where I want to go.
100%. I was such a clown. I mean, and in fact, so then from there, when I say it was like just who I was, like it was so inevitable, which is kind of sad because I think I'm smart. I think I could have done other things, but it was inevitable. Like it was just the thing that always showed up. And I auditioned for a play in high school and I didn't get it. And I was like, well, I'm supposed to be on stage. So then I went to the local newspaper and I looked and saw, where auditions were and what things. And in the meantime, oh wait, you know what happened first? So then I got a job. I was like, I know I want to be an actress. So where do producers go?
Oh.
Like you have to meet producers if you're going to be an actress.
And this is where in the country?
This is Austin, Texas, and I'm
All
like
right.
15, maybe 16 years old.
I'll say Austin's got a nice art scene.
Oh, totally. A music scene.
Yeah,
which,
absolutely.
But I was way too lazy to practice guitar. Yeah. So since I was just naturally a clown, it seemed effortless. And I went to the theater, but not the stage theater. I went to a movie theater because, that's where writers and producers and directors go. They go to the movies.
Sure.
So I got a job in a movie theater and I was an usher. And it was a special kind of fancy movie theater. It was like kind of like the ArcLight. Well, you don't know the ArcLight maybe, but
I do. I have been to the ArcLight, yeah.
Okay. So it's like it was a fancy movie theater. So we had to go up in front of the theater every time there was a showing, and we had to say, thank you for coming to the ArcLight. We know you had your choice of other theaters, and we thank you for choosing ours. And so
did it have the curtain? Like the curtain that would then open?
Yes, it did.
Of course.
And the lobby of the theater had these it had a fake stars and clouds and things, and every 12 minutes there would be a fake rainstorm in the lobby. No,
like the grocery store.
Yeah, it was high end. I mean,
I'll say, as someone who worked in a movie theater for 10 years, I know exactly what you're talking about. But mine was pretty much your garden variety multiplex. It was a 16 screen.
You did too?
I did.
Isn't it?
Same thing. And I was like the same path. I was like, I like movies. I want to be around people who like movies. So clearly you should go work in a movie theater. And you find out, no, most of the people there just because they just want to punch a clock.
That's true.
They don't want to do retail.
That's true. But you have access to the movies. And I would go in the back and I would watch, I would know what time events were happening in movies that I loved, and I would go in at that particular time and watch my favorite scene, and I would go...
I found that, exactly what you're talking about, a fascinating process, because I would see films out of order.
Oh,
so because I was a projectionist, so it would start and stuff, and then I would go, I have a half-hour break. I'm going to watch part of this movie, and I would go watch, from the booth, half an hour or something before I had to do the next thing. But then I was like, okay, so that goes there, and so I would eventually have to sort of piece it together what it was in my head. So it was almost like deconstructing it.
That's kind of great.
Yeah, and also it was easy to enjoy horror films that way because you can just see beginning, middle, end. There's all this crap in the middle you can just jump right over.
Right, you watch the end, you're like, was that so scary?
I get it. Yeah.
That's funny. Yeah, I mean, because I was 16 and, anything you watch at 16 is like the best movie
the best
ever made.
Yeah.
And they are still the movies that I would watch every year, because I just fell in love. I mean, yeah. So, but I did so I created a character to do the announcement.
Oh, okay.
It was like Saturday night, the 8:00 showing, and I made up this rap. And so,
do you still remember it?
Of course I remember it.
Oh, I need to hear it.
Okay.
Okay, so we're all sitting down in our theaters. Okay, so all of us.
You ready?
We're all sitting in the theater with our popcorn, just like, I can't wait for the movie to start. Like, oh, here she comes. Oh, nice.
Yes. Thank you for setting the scene. I am in my polyester vest.
Okay.
With my name tag, with my rainbow name tag, and my little black skirt with my black flats. And I'm walking down to the front, and I said, I would go and say, I'd turn around, and then I would turn back around and go, "Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Arbor 4. The trash goes in the back, and your feet go on the floor. We're really glad you came here to see this movie. I've seen it once myself, and I think it's really groovy. So sit back, relax, enjoy the show. Thanks again from the Arbor. Now I have to go." And thank you. Thanks. Yeah, no, it was a crowd pleaser.
Yeah, did you actually get a pretty good response from people?
I did because,
Because, they're used to the same spiel every time. So
right.
Someone doing something different. Yeah.
Yeah. So it got such a good response that then I created an Addams Family one where I had the whole audience snapping with me, and I had a country one. I mean, I did audience participation ones. I created 4 or 5 of them, and I just was doing all these characters, and I got into the local paper.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, because it was, it was a weird, funny thing that this 16-year-old kid. Anyway, that was the first step. And then when I thought I was pretty hot stuff. I was a big deal at the Arbor 4, Kyle. A very big deal.
Well, how could you not be? I mean, you were creating original songs. Everybody else is just sweeping up popcorn, but you're like, no, wait, I've got one more verse.
I think I always I was like a terrier, I wanted to create something fun or funny in every situation. I don't know if I was diligent about sweeping the floor. I might have been a horrible co-employee. But in any case, this was what I was just constantly driven to do. Anyway, then I didn't get a part that I had auditioned for in high school that I really felt that I deserved. And so when that happened, I was like, well, I'm going to go get a job as an actress. And I looked in the paper for, auditions that were happening, and the local comedy troupe was having auditions. And so I called them up, and they were like, "Wait, are you the girl from the paper?"
Oh, wow.
Yeah, which is a great way to go into an audition.
Right.
And I was like, yeah. And they were like, "Well, you're 16. We serve alcohol. I don't think you can work here, but we'll check." So they checked, and turns out I could, as long as I wasn't drinking. And I wasn't. I was very... I had to win an Academy Award someday. There was going to be no drinking.
Right.
I mean, I didn't mess around with boys or drinking or drugs or anything. I was so focused, which is kind of great, Yeah. I only hope that my kids have a focus that makes them so insane that they, don't get into too much trouble.
Yeah. You were career-minded. There's nothing wrong with that.
I guess. And it was fun. I mean, it was the most fun that I could ever have to it was like my mom times 350 when I'm making people in a theater laugh, right?
Yeah. So this was an improv troupe, or? It
is a sketch comedy troupe that still exists.
So they would write, Second City, they would write everything.
Yeah. Yeah, it was all sketch. It's called Esther's Follies.
Okay.
And it is on 6th Street in Austin, Texas.
Oh, they're still there?
Oh, they're still there.
Oh, that's great. So many of those things just whoosh, and they're gone.
No. That was there probably 20 years before I even got to them.
Nice.
And they were all grown-ups, and I was like the 16-year-old. And then, and it's still there. And in fact, the guy who does the magic for that show is still there, and he was my prom date.
Hey.
Ray Anderson.
You dated a magician.
Well, because I'm telling you, I never... So I auditioned for this thing, and I was supposed to be in the B company, but then I really wanted to be in the A company. Yeah. So I would go to the B company auditions, and then I would just hang out and go to every A company. I mean, B company rehearsals. And then I would hang out and do all the A company rehearsals. And I was like, and I showed up to every show. I just came, even though I wasn't in them and I wasn't in the show. I went to every show. And finally, after doing that for like a month, they were like, well, Jesus, I mean, you're here. Like,
And it was the same script, right? Like A and B were doing the same.
No, they were different things.
Oh, they were different. Oh, so you memorized both.
Yeah, I mean, I was just watching. I was watching them writing new material every week, rehearsing that material the week of the show, and then doing one show Thursday and 2 shows Friday and Saturday, and then sometimes special shows on Sunday. So it was a huge schedule. And I guess
they just burn all that material, and then they start over from nothing.
No.
Oh, okay.
No,
So they just they're cherry picking. So like, hey, this works. Let's keep it in. This didn't work. Let's write something new.
It's like stand-up comedy.
Okay.
So they had their tentpole pieces.
Sure.
You know, they would always start with like a medley of some kind. We did like Beatles medleys, and we did other like different like 50s medleys. We would choose an era or a type of music and do a medley about the news.
Okay.
And to this day, half of the Beatles lyrics to me are like, poor Kathy Rigby, she was a star, now she's selling those pads on the screen. Like, I don't have the right lyrics in my head.
Because it's the ones you performed.
Right.
Yeah. So did you start writing for them? With them, I should say with them, because it's a collaborative?
Well, I was 16, so my writing was terrible.
Well, sure.
So no, but actually, that's not true, because I did write a character, and my character was a sorority girl, called the Bowhead, and I had a giant bow on the top of my head, and it was like my solo piece. So I would go out and I would just do 3 minutes of material about being a sorority girl in college. Like, I'd be like, I'm trying to remember.
And this was like a thing you had written. Like this was like a little, like a 3-minute monologue, essentially.
Totally.
Okay.
Like, like she made a joke that like, I'm going to take English. I'm just going to show up for the final. I speak it. Like,
That's a good joke.
Thank you. Yeah, I had some
for a
pretty good
16-year-old.
ones.
That's a pretty good joke.
Yeah. So, and I think, just watching them, they would sometimes tweak existing pieces, like, if there was like a talk show sketch, they would have different characters on. But then if there was one really successful character, they would have it because, the show, it sustained. I mean, it was the thing to do in Austin. So it was really fun. It was like, I kind of call it my boot camp for comedy.
Yeah. Well, just being around that many creative people doing something creative for that long, it's radioactive. Like you just pick it up.
And it really, that's kind of where I got my work ethic because, well, to go back to Ray Anderson being my prom date, it wasn't that the magician and I fell in love and it's a cute meet cute. Meet cute. Would have been great. But I don't think his boyfriend Andrew would have liked it. But I was
One
doing
last trick.
Yeah. Exactly. I was doing shows like, 5 nights a week. So I didn't go out with people my own age.
And your parents were cool with this? Like at 16? I mean, there's other things 16-year-olds could be doing that I'm sure they would be, but like they're fine with you hanging around with a bunch of, degenerate theater people 5 nights a week?
I mean, Esther's Follies had such a good reputation. And I was so clearly, to be honest, and my mom told me this later, she was like, I only took you to that audition because I never thought you would get the job. I mean, truly.
Oh, yeah. I get it. As a parent, I get it. Just to shut you up.
Well.
Like, see?
And everybody else auditioning was like 25. And,
right.
Like they're grown-ups.
Yeah, and had this, like, let me show you. Here's page 2 of my resume.
Right.
Or my CV.
I have no training.
Right.
I'm just a 16-year-old jackass who made up some voices for, like, why would they ever give me the job?
But you had moxie. You had chutzpah.
Well, I guess I was good enough for the B company. And then I was like, guess what? So I did the A company, but it was step by step, right? Like I had I had one I won third harmony in one song in the medley for like the first 2 months. And that's all I did in the show. But just watching and being there and trying things, then they'd throw me another part and I would do those. And it was my happy place. And I don't think my mom would have not had me go to my happy place, you know?
Yeah.
So that was lucky.
That was mostly most of what the performing you did through high school was them, or were you still like auditioning for plays and things too, or was it there was so all consuming you?
It was all there was no time. I mean, because really we rehearsed 3 days a week and then did shows 3 days a week. There was one day off. Like
wow.
My mom had to. I wasn't going to take off for my high school graduation.
Oh, like I got a show, Mom.
I was like, I'm in the show. They have to replace me. It's a pain in the butt. And it's just I'll get the certificate. And she's like, you are not missing your high school graduation. And then the other one was prom. I took off to one night to go to my prom.
Okay. Sacrifices. Yeah, you have to make them.
Isn't that funny? Oh, God.
So you did that all through high school?
Yeah, that was and then a little bit. So then I go away to college and then I came back and I did on my college breaks, I would come home and perform with Esther's. And then actually my second year, we were doing a pilot.
Oh.
Comedy Central came to watch Esther's Follies and was like, woo, we should do a show about this. And they were shooting a pilot. And they asked, like, could you stay? Or maybe I was like, can I stay?
that does seem to fit the brand.
I'm not sure which one they really did. So I ended up doing my sophomore year back in Texas at UT.
Oh, okay.
And we did the pilot, and we didn't get a series, but.
Well, I think most pilots, that's the case. I mean, even UCB did a pilot and it didn't go. Like,
right?
I saw, I think it was ASCAT they did as the pilot. And it was like Andy Richter's on it and Amy Poehler is on it. And it's like, how in the world? And they're like, pass.
Right? I know.
Okay.
Well, I guess they showed them, right?
Yeah. So what do those Comedy Central guys know?
Yeah, right. Oh, Matt Walsh, where's he going to be in 50 years?
Flash in the pan.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Amy Poehler, she owns the world.
Right? Exactly.
Yeah. So, so I did that. And then I kind of I think I stepped out. I think I started doing other things just because I was like, you know what? I got to figure, I'll do something else. And then I was at school like full time and loving it. I did like every extracurricular activity. I was in an a cappella group.
So what were you going to school for? Like, what was the plan? I mean, were you actually getting a theater degree?
Well, because I was who I was when I got there, I was like, I am going to be like Meryl Streep.
Oh.
I think she went to Vassar. I'm not sure. But I got a scholarship to go to Vassar, and I was like, well, I'm going to, because of Esther's. I mean, Esther's was kind of a cool thing to have on your, that was pretty lucky.
Yeah. And obviously you had to have grades because they don't give scholarships to just good improv performers. I'm not,
No, I was super nerd. I love school. I loved school, math, and all of it. I loved it. So that was lucky that I also, because, when I went to Vassar, then I was really, but it was all.
I mean, that much work, that's a job. Like, I mean, like you're doing that 5 nights a week or whatever, you're going to school and you have a full-time job.
I don't know how I did it.
Yeah.
Except that.
Man, the energy of youth, right?
Yeah, right.
Jeez.
But also, it wasn't like it was a boarding school. I mean, it was a Texas public school, and I'm pretty sure that we were like out of the 50 states. I'm pretty sure we were somewhere around 48. So, what I'm gonna say is, maybe I was top 10% of my class, but not sure. That would have been the same case if I had been at like Harvard Westlake or something.
Sure.
Yeah. From what I can tell.
I live in one of those states too. So yeah, I get it.
Yeah. So it was kind of lucky that I got to, and Vassar was a very creative. It was, there's only one course that you have to take at Vassar, and that's a language. 1 year of a language.
And your language was?
It was French at first, and then I took Spanish because I love languages, Oh,
okay. Yeah. I'm not going to ask you to speak anything, but do you still retain some of that?
I do in the sense that if I go to a Spanish-speaking or French-speaking country,
Yes.
after 3 days, I can really speak and understand people. And then after like a week, I'm like, okay, I got it.
Okay.
Very, very broken. I'm not going to
sure.
go to a dinner party where no one speaks English. It'll be hopeless. But to order off the menu and understand street signs and kind of figure out where I'm going, I can understand enough to do stuff like that, which is great.
All right.
It's great. I love it. I that would have been the other thing that I did is languages. I thought I was going to go to college and maybe be like a translator or but then I was like, well, obviously everyone wants to learn French and go live in Paris and translate, and they all knew English, so it was a little bit like, this is going to be tougher than I thought.
Stick with the performing.
Yeah, but I guess I was always sort of hedging my bets, but I thought it was definitely going to be an actor. And I took film because I was like, well, if I'm going to be an actor, then I need to know what the other people on the other side of the camera are doing.
Sure. So, and that's at this point, you're like, this is your freshman year of college, acting 100%. Like you were.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I was in the...
No, I mean, of the creative side, like you were just like, this is what I'm going to be. I'm going to be in front of the camera.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. I was, I was in the... I did plays. I joined every theater troupe. I was in the sketch comedy group. Like, I got there and I was like, where are my people? And, ran headfirst. And it was a little, I had 3 years of professional experience by that point.
Yeah.
So I was like ready to go. And so I really did. It was all about that. I was going to be a combination of Meryl Streep and Lisa Kudrow. That was my dream.
So when it came time to make that transition, then to go back to Texas, then like after your first year to transfer it over to do the pilot.
Yeah.
Did you feel like you were taking a step forward because you were getting to do a pilot, or is it a step back because now I've lost all those connections?
It was a step. It was both. You're exactly right. Like, I was like, I might be on television, which is obviously the choice you make.
Sure.
But then I didn't end up on television, and I was like, well, now I'm just doing the same theater that I was doing for the last 3 years. And I kind of was like, well, I don't want to be, I don't want to be doing Esther's Follies forever. And I wanted to be a really good actress. So like the reason I wanted an education, this is how freaking myopic and single-minded I was, that I was like, I need to learn about everything in case I play a character who knows about things. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
Yes, I was personally curious, but more like I took abnormal psychology because, well, what if I play a character that,
what if your character has multiple personalities? I need to know the medical behind that.
Yeah, and I really, like I said, I was a nerd and I really loved school, so I really wanted to go back to Vassar and finish out because I recognized that was a better place for me. And also it was like people my own age, It was...
So before we get away from the pilot, 'cause I'm curious about this process. So Comedy Central says, hey, we like you interested, and then they say, here's some money and some cameras, go nuts? Or do they have a very specific thing of like, here's what we want?
So,
and I guess, and how much were you involved in those conversations? Not in terms of making decisions, but like that they were letting you know.
I was not really involved a lot in that process, but what I know is that there was a production company. I think it was like Saban Entertainment, S-A-B-A-N.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Those
if those are the Power Ranger people, if that's the same Saban.
I think it probably is.
Yeah, probably. They're big into television.
Yeah, and someone, came and saw Esther's and thought, oh, can we make this into a TV show? So then they brought in a director and some producers, and I can't remember if they brought in writers. I don't think so, but what they did is they then tailored our sketches to more TV friendly.
Okay, so they weren't shooting the performance.
They were.
Okay. So but with an audience?
Yes.
Okay. Oh, so they were just like you guys are performing and they're shooting it there. So it's sort of like watching a performance on a stage, not redoing it so it's now in somebody's living room.
Nope. It was all live and on stage because the special thing too about Esther's is this behind the stage was a window. And it was 6th Street, which is like the drunken bar drag of of Austin. So it's a freak show out there. And so very often our sketches would include harassing people on the street or making fun of people on the street. or like we had sketches that we would actually go outside and do outside, like incorporate that.
Okay.
The final song we did every show was Cry Me a River, and this beautiful, songstress would stand on the stage and sing Cry Me a River, and out behind the window we'd have a blue tarp floating up, and then we would do all of these things on a river, tubing and skiing and yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Like there was a flood outside because she was singing Cry Me a River, stuff like that. So they had to kind of do the stage element because that was a big part of our show.
How did you adjust your performance from playing to the back of the house, which is, in those things you gotta be big, to having cameras recording you, or didn't you?
It wasn't super, from what I can recall, and again, this is like 5 years ago.
Yeah, exactly.
No, but
all of 20,
I'm
probably
joking.
at this time.
Yeah. I'm a child.
Yeah.
So, but from what I can recall, so I did a number from it's called Love Didn't Do Right by Me, and it's a song from White Christmas.
Okay.
But we did not get the rights to Love Didn't Do Right by Me. So the pianist had to write a different song for me to learn, and then we had to sort of choreograph what we knew to this new song. Like, there was stuff like that. I don't know, and just different things like, holding for close-ups and things, having to repeat things a little bit like, I don't know if you've ever seen a television show being taped. Have you ever seen it?
I have. Yep.
Yeah. So, we would go back and pick up things and the audience would have to fake applause and, But for the most part, I feel like what they did is they brought in cameras and we just shot for an entire weekend. We shot all 5 shows, the same numbers, and then they would take the pieces that worked the best, as far as I can remember.
And do you know where that is now? It's just sitting on somebody's shelf. Do you have a copy of the finished pilot on a VHS tape somewhere?
I'm sure they have it.
Oh, I'm sure they have it. Yeah, I'm always just curious because there's so many of these things that you hear about that I wonder where they are. Is there a vault somewhere with all of this missing media?
Yeah, I'm sure, I was awful. Even later, I was. Even when I became a filmmaker, I made movies and I didn't even know that they were at the film studio to pick them up when I graduated. I did not keep track of anything that I did. I have a couple of things. I do have my senior film that I did, but there's so much stuff that I didn't even know where they were.
You just did it for the assignment. Got the grade and then...
That's what I mean. I'm a jackass. It never occurred to me. Maybe because I did theater for so long,
Oh, yeah, the impermanence of theater.
Right. You do something and it's over. You move on.
Yeah.
But this is no, keep track of your stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it was, I'm sure it's somewhere. I remember I was back at Vassar watching it on Comedy Central. It did show.
Oh, they did air it.
Yeah, they aired it a couple times. They just did not. They had paid for the content. I'm sure Comedy Central gave, somehow Saban and Comedy Central had worked that out.
Yeah.
And so they did
a lot of times
show it.
If it's a pilot and it doesn't go, it doesn't go anywhere. It just goes right into the archives, hopefully, or into the trash if at worst.
Yeah, and I don't think. Austin is such a quirky, weird little town, and there's something so electric about the live performance of it that I don't think it translated to TV. It was good, but it's different.
So after that was a year then you spent. So you went back to Vassar then?
Yeah, I went back to Vassar.
Okay, how was that picking up after being gone for a year?
So good.
Yeah? It's even though new people, people had moved on and everything, you just hit the ground running?
Well, really only 1 year had moved on. The people that I met who were seniors when I was a freshman. And then I did my sophomore year in Texas.
Yeah.
So
this is junior then?
Yeah. So junior year I went back and it was great. I had made enough friends my freshman year that, and you just make, I don't know, I liked it. They were so easy. The people people at my school were so easy to get along with, and they were all freaks. I mean,
That's the best part about the theater departments is when you get there and you go, oh, these are my people. I've been waiting to find you for years.
And like there were some kids who were like, hey, I'm pre-med, and there were brains, no doubt about it. But like the whole idea that you can go to a school and like take a 300 level poli-sci course if you want because you're interested in it. Like there were no rules. You could go to your counselor and be like, hey, you know what? I want to do a double major of, urban studies and women's studies, or, I mean, that's not that outrageous, but urban studies and Spanish or whatever. Like you could mix and match. You could do triplets. You could do, you could do anything. You could totally shape your education. They were very encouraging of you to empower yourself to do all that stuff.
That is very cool and very rare.
It was and I didn't even know that part of it. It was sort of like, well,
Yeah, this is what college is, right? This is what everybody's doing, isn't it?
Yeah. So there were a lot of really like creative, interesting people at that school.
So at what point did you pick up a camera? Like, was there a class or something, like a filmmaking course or something that you did that you shot a short something?
Yeah, I think that the one thing, I did a lot of extracurricular theater, but I got a C in set design.
Oh.
When I was a freshman.
Okay.
We all have, when you do theater, you have to do all the stuff, the costume and the.
Oh yeah.
And
I did that.
And I was terrible at it. I mean, and it's the only C I've ever received in my life.
Wow.
And so I was kind of like turned off by the theater department. So I didn't go. I knew I was going back to Vassar, but I wasn't going to do theater because I'm not going to get another C. I can't. And there was a part
They clearly do not know genius when it's right in front of them.
I was such a jackass. I mean, there was a part of me that was like, I know how to do theater, Yeah. I just was, but it was great. And I think life unfolds in this perfect way because I was like, well, I don't want to do theater anymore. So I'm going to do film because eventually, if I ever make movies or do television, I need to know what the people on the other side of the camera are doing. So I became a film major my junior year.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. And I majored in it, and I loved it. I loved it. And I also had this, I know I'm going to be an actress, so this is really just for me to be able to talk funny at parties or, to have something to say.
Sure.
I wasn't studying it because I'm like, I'm going to be a filmmaker. I was studying it because I'm like, I'm going to be an actor, so I should know about this.
Yeah. You know what those guys in the chairs with the megaphones and the weird eyepieces are doing when they're giving me direction.
And may I point out that it was all guys in chairs.
Oh, yeah, I was going to say that. I'm not being sexist there. I'm saying that's pretty much what it was like at the time.
That's exactly what it was, I mean, so it was not, I did not have any dreams of being a director, maybe a writer. I think I started writing in earnest like my junior year at Vassar because we had to write our own short films.
Writing things that you were going to then shoot.
Yeah.
So basically, it was more for economy than for a passion for the written word at the time. It was like, well, I'm not going to let somebody else do this.
Oh, yeah. When we had to, it was our assignment. Like there was no, so like my first film officially, I guess, was a music video of Copacabana.
Okay.
By Barry Manilow.
Sure.
Which I loved. I mean, I loved working on that. Like, I got to pick these really silly, fun things that I love to do. But I was definitely more interested, in like the comedy of it. And I still am to this day. Like there were people that made movies and I'd be like, oh God, you're a filmmaker. Like you really thought about where to put the camera.
Yeah. Oh, I know. I've only directed one short. But I got involved in the local community and we went to a screening of all these shorts that people had put together, like a yearly thing all together. And I was watching some of them. I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, I'm all right. Like, my one wasn't in there yet because I was still working on it. But I was in there I'm like, okay, I'm doing good. And then like one came along and I was like, oh my God. Like, sort of like you're thinking like, oh yeah, I'm kind of a big deal here. And then all of a sudden like a shark comes through and you go, okay. Like there are people operating on different levels. Like I was just like, master shot, A camera, B camera, and then come back and forth. I'm on it. And then you see somebody, with like their handmade steady cam running through and doing a 10-second, a 15-second tracking shot. And you go, oh, okay. I have to learn now.
Right? That exquisite attention to detail and all the stuff that it makes film what it like really, really, really great. It really is the thing that makes it really great. And it is the most tedious, annoying, hard part of the process for me. But it is the thing that you must do to make it great. But that's what I did. That's where I started writing and making films, and I wrote plays. I started writing plays.
Okay. Okay, so let's talk about that then transition. So like you wrote them because you had to.
Yeah.
Like because like it was for your assignment and like you had like done like basically this is just a thing just to get me past whatever it is. And then did you find like, oh, I could do this? Or was it like there's an opportunity, so I'm just going to jump on it? Like, did you feel the call of the written word, or was it like, well, nobody's going to make opportunities, so I got to make them myself?
I pretty much danced with the one who brung me. Like, I loved short films because they were sort of an extension of sketch. And when
of course.
And I joined the sketch group at Vassar, and so we were writing sketches all the time. And I had experience with that. But it was my first time getting to do my ideas, right? Like, because at Esther's, I'm just never going to be able to compete with, they've all been doing this for so long. And so this was like kind of a great playground. So I really, the sketches kind of started it. I found that I really enjoyed writing small chunks of things that would entertain people.
Just as an aside, just because I'm a comedy nerd, and we'll get. I don't want to derail this thing, so we're just gonna and then go back. We're gonna jump off and then come back in.
Yeah.
How does Esther's feel about endings? Because that was always one of those weird things I watched with sketch comedy. Like the end of a sketch is an art form.
Yes.
And like if you watch Kids in the Hall, they do it one way. If you watch Monty Python, they do it one way. If you watch Saturday Night Live, they don't do anything. They just like, and we're done. Like
camera pulls back.
Right, exactly. Like you see, and actors walk off. That's it. Like, I guess that's the end of the sketch.
Yeah.
What was the philosophy, Esther's, about the ending of a sketch?
Just like a good improv show, there's got to be a what do they call that? Is it a button? Yeah. Or a hit, or like there's another name for it, but yes, a button.
Like a tag at the end, like a big.
You had to end on a laugh.
Okay.
So the goal was always like try to get that last joke and then blackout, and because even if it was kind of
as you roll into the next thing.
Right. Because you have to. It takes time to set up the next thing or whatever, and people sort of got that rhythm, right? Like even if it wasn't that great of a joke, they'd be like, ha, 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 and the lights would go down. They'd be like, ha ha ha,
Because they get it. You get trained. Like you have to train the audience, and then they'll get it. Okay, that's my. I'm also a comedy nerd, so I just was curious about that. So go back to it. Okay, so back to you sitting down with the blank page. So then you started thinking about like, well, if I wrote that, I can write this.
Yes, I think this is where I wish that I had more. Training up top. Like I wrote everything from instinct, which I think is great because it's a great way to develop your voice, right? Like, I had
but it also leads to a lot of dead scripts.
Oh God. Well, and just like it's such a painful process because you don't even have like you don't even have like an ABC. I hated structure. Also, I came from the acting side of it, which is so like.
So you're looking for monologues, you're looking for moments, you're looking for...
like, yes, and you'd make things work as an actor because someone else has done all of the incredibly hard work of, refining the dialogue and making it the right place in the right, in the right moment of the right part of the story, So it's a little bit easier to do the acting part of it. So it was really hard. I wasn't as disciplined, and I was a little still split focus because I always planned after college to become an actress.
Sure.
So I was writing...
This was still just biding time.
Yeah, I was writing because I was passionate about it and I liked it, but I don't think I ever really anticipated that like one of my plays was going to be produced.
Oh, really? So you were just doing it more for the exercise?
Yeah, I was doing it because it was interesting to me. Like I liked it, and I had seen a lot of theater and done theater, and I liked it. But I wasn't sure what my voice was. It was very clear to me that my voice was comedy, like sketch comedy.
Yeah, absolutely.
So there was this, I was constant, like I did improv, I did sketch, I would write funny songs. I was constantly thinking of these ideas, and that's just what I automatically did. So I never focused on other things because I was planning to go to Europe after college and go do improv for 6 months in Europe. And then come back and do improv in Europe. I didn't know what I was doing.
Was there a big improv scene in Europe?
No.
Okay. I was like, did I not know about this?
No, just we were going to go to London. Maybe there was an improv scene.
Some people want to go hang out at the Louvre.
You know,
you wanted to be up there. Can I get a place? Parlez-vous.
It was like a friend of mine. We were in the improv group together, and we were like 21 and graduating college. So we're like, and you could, I don't know if you still can. I'm sure you can. But when you're a student, you can go live in England for 6 months, and you get like a student visa. You can work. You can do whatever you want. So I was going to go get a job waiting tables or something, and do improv at night and meet people in the comedy scene over there, and go live in.
Go to Edinburgh Fringe and
yeah. It just seemed like it was more of a life decision,
Yeah.
But that it didn't end up happening.
Life has a funny way of redirecting you.
It's funny. It's almost embarrassing to say it, but it's because because I did the Esther's Follies pilot.
Yeah. So then you had a credit then.
Yeah.
Nice. Okay. Were you in SAG from that?
No.
Oh, okay.
Nothing like that. So but I was performing all the time at Vassar and still doing this boot camp for what I thought I would probably be a stand-up or Saturday Night Live. I thought I was going to get on.
Okay. Oh, stand-up. That's new.
I did a little bit of it, and I am officially terrible at it.
Okay.
But stand-up is a way to Saturday Night Live, and all paths sort of led to Saturday Night Live for me.
If you're doing sketch comedy.
Yeah.
That's Olympus.
Yeah. I figured I would end up there somehow, some way. I had tested once when I was in high school, like when I was at Esther's, I sent a thing in and they were like, "We love you, but not this time." You're like, okay. So I
Get a little more seasoning, kid.
Yeah. Basically, I was a child and from Texas.
Yeah. You unfortunately you weren't Eddie Murphy.
No, I wasn't. God, he was my favorite, though. I worshipped him, and I would do his routines.
Well, sure. I mean, like the thing, and somebody so young who had it, like it's like as you and I have both been around talented people where you're like, I'm doing it right, and then all of a sudden you go, oh
no, they're really good. Yeah. Yep. There's a comedian. There's a comedian who I just worked on a movie that I did, and I watch her stuff, and I'm like, oh dear God, you are incredibly talented. Her name is Scout Durwood. I'm like, okay, wow, yeah, she's amazing.
Say, write that name down, folks, because one day.
Oh yeah, no, she's something else. She's really great. I'm like, oh, you're talented. Okay. Yeah. So anyway, so I was I loved film. I mean, I loved it.
So I guess what was the first thing you wrote that you were like proud of enough to show someone else outside the thing that wasn't just for your drawer?
You mean in terms of sketch or film?
Well, either one. Like when something you were like that you had done that you were like, oh, this is bigger than just a project, school project that like you wanted to show people and go, hey, I think I actually got something here.
Oh, that wasn't a school project.
Yeah, Jeez. That wasn't like done for an assignment.
Oh, okay. Well, let me clarify. I was writing all the time for the sketch shows that we were doing. Like we did some of my favorites were like, well, some of it was just ridiculous. Like I went and saw a dance concert and I thought it was so silly. I didn't understand dance. So I just did, an interpretive dance number where the woman just said fruit and rolled around on the floor a lot. And for some reason that worked as a sketch. And then I did a Spanish language class for crazy people.
Oh.
So that you learned Spanish sentences, but they were nonsensical. And that was pretty great. I'm trying to remember. There was one, The Gynecologist Magician. That was a favorite. Where you have a gynecologist who just starts pulling out like scarves and a bunny and da-da-da. That was a big favorite of mine. I did. So, I mean, those are some sketches that I wrote. We performed them for an audience, so I was constantly getting stuff shown. I was always performing, so I was always showing my stuff to people. There was never anything that was like, oh, wait for the right time. Like you had a show, so you had to write, rehearse, and perform it.
Yeah.
And even all our films that we did in the film program were also shown at the end of the year. So it was going to be shown whether I thought it was any good or not.
But you're still just burning through all this.
Yeah.
Like you're not keeping any of it. You're not building up you're not, a catalog or anything. You're just keep working.
Kind of, yeah. I still do. I think I have my senior year film, which was called Immaculate Conception.
Oh, okay.
And it is about a boy in college who sleeps with a girl that he has a huge crush on and gets pregnant. And he doesn't know what to do with the baby. And he has to ask her for if she wants to be a parent with him. And this is all silent. There's no dialogue. But you just see him growing pregnant and you see him dealing with all the things that a woman would deal with if she's pregnant. It's sort of like a feminist thing. But I think I still have that film somewhere.
Okay.
I'm sure I do. But everything else was like sketch and theater and kind of, So then when I got to New York, well, I didn't end up going.
So, okay. Yeah. So did you graduated then?
Yeah, I graduated.
Okay. And with a degree in
film.
In film. Okay.
Yeah. So it was a Bachelor of Arts.
Okay.
With a major in film. And then here was my plan. Well, I was going to go to London for 6 months.
Sure.
But I was also like, I'll go to Boston. And because my aunt and uncle lived there, I didn't have any place to go. I had no, I had no plan, and I wasn't going to London for it was a while. So I had 6 months to kill. I'm like, I'll go to Boston. I'll see if I like it there. And then once I got to Boston, I did the other thing again, where I'm like, well, let's see, where would be a good place to work where have people in television might go? Can you guess where I ended up?
At a news station.
The Cheers bar.
Oh, the Cheers bar. Of course, it's Boston. Of course you'd end up there. Because they knew your name, right?
Yes, I went in. They did not know my name. But I went in.
Lies.
And I know. Well, I guess they hadn't
I'm trying to think of the approximate timeline. The show was still on at that time, right?
It was. I think it might have been.
I'd say right around that time. I'd say because it ended in the early 90s.
I think it was not still on. It had just ended.
Okay.
It had just ended. So it was still a very big
Cheers
deal.
Mania was
People were still lining up around the block to get into the Cheers bar.
Yeah.
And I got a job waiting tables and the fancy restaurant upstairs, and then also bartending and waiting tables downstairs. So we did both.
Well, if you're going to be an actress, you have to wait tables at some point.
I seriously thought that by being there somehow, that I don't remember the names of the creators of Cheers. I feel like I'm.
Charles.
Yes.
I see the title card in my head, but I can't.
Yeah. I know. Yeah. They had all this memorabilia up on the wall. They had a gift shop, of course, and I watched the show, so I loved the show, and it was such a I felt like I was on television because I was sort of, even though it looks nothing like the set. You were on a set.
Right. Yeah, right.
But even though it looks nothing like the set. But just the fact that it existed, I was a little bit like, oh, it's the exterior is the same.
I would say you were pretty brave. Because once again, you uprooted everything. You didn't follow anybody out there. You're just going to go to a brand new place, new scene. And meet all new people in a whole new environment and be like, nope, this is it. This is the career starts now.
I guess so. Yeah. I was kind of like a combination of clueless and driven. I was so busy, I performed in the senior musical and I was doing the final best of sketch shows and I was doing all this stuff that literally we were supposed to move out of my terrace apartment. We had it was, housing on campus. And my sisters were like, when do you have to move? And I was like, tomorrow. And I hadn't even gotten a box, much less packed a box. My roommates were all like ready to, my housemates were packed and they had schedules and plans and vans and parents who were taking their thing. And I had like a car and some ideas. I was like, oh, no. I was really weirdly together in terms of I can make a sketch that'll set your hair on fire, but I cannot pack a box or plan how to get from New York to Boston, you know?
Yeah.
It was very fly by the seat of my pants. So that was normal for me because that's just how I lived.
Well, we've hit Boston, so we're also going to hit pause. But don't worry, there's more conversation to come. In part 2, we're going to the city so nice they named it twice. We'll discuss professional auditions and maybe pitch a couple of our dream projects. Thanks for indulging my curiosity. Go do something nice for yourself. Thanks so much for listening. This has been the next chapter in the Curiosity Codex, but there are still many pages left to decipher. We're part of the True Story FM family of podcasts. Find out more about us at truestory.fm. Our theme music is Intrusion by Severed Personality, aka Kevin MacLeod. The voice of the Codex is Vicky Hall. Find her on the web at vickyhall.squarespace.com. And my name is Kyle Olson.
The Codex is closed. For now.